Hello there and welcome. We are back and glad to have you along with us here. Ask a Lawyer, ready to go on CP24. John Scholes here as always, and momentarily, lawyer in question, always my co-host, my intrepid pal, Lior Samfiru will be here. But I always tell you right off the top every week to reach out to Lior and his team with any questions you may have, problems in the workplace. Real simple, 1-855-821-5900. Ask at EmploymentLawyer.ca as well. We'll put you in touch with Lior and his team. We got a half hour to get through the show, so we got a lot of stuff to relay onto you, information, and getting rid of some of the misconceptions and myths when it comes to workplace rights and employment law. The main topic in our second segment will be 3 questions you need to consider before resigning from your employment. That is really important stuff. We'll get to that, a bunch of phone calls and questions as well. But as we always like to get warmed up every week, Lior, we get to you with the week that was or case of the day. What is cooking this evening? How are you, pal?
Hey, John, great to be here to talk employment law, to help demystify this topic. I know people have issues and questions, and I know that because over the years, I've seen all of them. Not always are things going to be smooth in the workplace. You may have a boss that's not treating you properly. Maybe you're being bullied, harassed, or mistreated in the workplace. Maybe your job is changing, your responsibilities are taken away, your hours reduced, or of course, like so many other people, maybe you're worried about losing your job. In all of those cases and much more, the law is there. The law can intervene and make sure that that issue gets resolved, that there's proper compensation, that there's rules that have to be followed. And on this show, we tell you exactly what the law can do for you. It's okay to ask that question. What can the law do for me? We'll answer that question on this show and on every show. But there's so many more topics that we can cover. And as John said, this is a 30-minute show. Beyond the show, so easy to reach out. We'll give you that contact information on your screen throughout the show so that you can make that connection. We can get to talking about your specific situation. But the message I want you to take on the show is that the law is there for you. There are laws, really good laws that protect you when it comes to employment law. And to give you an example, let's talk about our case of the day. I spoke with a lady that had worked part-time as a bookkeeper for a company for over 8 years. She worked twice a week. She liked it. She was older. She kind of almost saw that as her retirement, just working part-time. Well, very recently, that company had decided that they actually need a full-time bookkeeper. They were getting busier, and twice a week was just not enough for them. They asked her if she wanted the full-time role. She wasn't interested because she got used to working twice a week. She couldn't see herself working 5 times a week. So the company said to her, well, we love you to death, but we're going to have to let you go, of course, because we're going to hire someone full-time. Since you're an independent contractor, they said, we're not going to pay you any severance, but we're going to give you a couple weeks pay just to be nice guys. She contacted me really just wanting to understand what her status is and is she owed more than 2 weeks pay. The key here is this. The key is the fact that she was not an independent contractor. She had been misclassified as a contractor. In the eyes of the law, she was an employee. This happens very, very often when you work for a company and they call you a contractor, but you have a regular job, you do what they say, you only work there. The law says you are an employee, and it doesn't matter what the company that you work for calls you. It doesn't matter how you pay your taxes. Doesn't matter how they pay you. If you look like an employee and act like an employee, you are an employee. For her, yes, she was an employee for over 8 years. That means she was owed severance. For her, that severance was right around 10 to 12 months of pay. That's how much she's owed. So I'm helping her get that now, and it's not going to be difficult. But this is something that does come up quite often. If you're working for one company, you're almost always going to be considered by the law to be an employee, not a contractor, regardless of what you think or what you may have signed. That means you have the rights of an employee, including the right to get your full severance if you are let go. If you're not sure if you're an employee or contractor, if you're not sure if you should be getting severance or overtime or vacation pay, let's talk about that. Reach out. You'd be surprised by just what the law provides for you.
Yeah, Lior's reached out to that phone number. Call Lior and his team, or by the way, pocket EmploymentLawyer.ca. If you want to clear it out, there's a section on contractor, not an independent contractor. That'll educate you quite quickly. We have time before we break, Lior, for our first viewer phone call of the show. So listen up and let's get to it.
I've been working at a brokerage for 14 years. I'm 69 years old, and they just sold to another business. they come to us this month with the new terms or whatever they're going to bring us, the new HR people, can they let me go because of my age?
Well, the obvious and hopefully the answer that we would all expect is no, you cannot be let go because of your age. Never. That is age discrimination. In fact, age should not even form a factor, one part of a factor in terms of deciding whether to let you go. The key ultimately for her is she going to be offered a job? On what terms? If she's not, she's going to be owed severance. But age cannot be a factor. So if she's not being hired by the owner, but everyone else is, and she's the oldest person, well, yeah, it starts kind of looking like age discrimination, which is illegal. We, of course, have to also find out how much severance she's going to be owed if she is let go in this situation. So we're going to use our severance calculator tool. You'll find that at EmploymentLawyer.ca. It's free and anonymous, and let's use it right now and see what we get. So she's in a coordinator role at the age of 69, been there for 14 years. Severance for her, if she is let go, if she's not offered a job, you see right at the bottom there, 16 months is approximately how much severance she's going to be owed. 16 months of severance. That's why you use this calculator. Over 2 million people in Canada have EmploymentLawyer.ca.
Great start, Lior. As always, we got to slip into a short break, then we'll come back with our main topic. So stick around. We're just getting warmed up, and lots more Ask a Lawyer on CP24 is just ahead. Stay with us.
Lost your job? Disability denied? Ask a Lawyer is here for you. Each week, experts from EmploymentLawyer.ca answer your questions. Visit cp24.com/askalawyer and watch Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on CP24.
All right, welcome back to Ask a Lawyer on CP24. Thank you so much for sticking around through the break. We have a main topic on the way, but first I will give you the reach out, the contact information anytime to get a hold of Lior and his team right there. 1-855-821-5900 by phone, email ask@employmentlawyer.ca. And you got a moment, scan that QR code on the right side of your screen. That will take you there as well. Everything you need to know. Okay, Lior, main topic time. And as I mentioned off the top, 3 questions you must consider before resigning. Is it better? And this is always the question we get on the phone lines, on the radio shows as well. Is it better to resign instead of what they call being fired, or let go in that matter? Some people think it's a much better way just to be fired so it's not on your permanent record, right?
Listen, John, over the years, I've spoken literally with hundreds of people who resigned because they thought it was better than being let go. They knew they were going to be let go, and they thought resigning is better. Well, here's the thing. It is not better to resign than to be let go. It's actually better to be let go. Why? Because if you resign, you may not get severance. You may not get EI. Whereas if you're let go, you have to get your full severance, up to 24 months pay. You will be entitled to EI, which would pay you for up to a year. So you have entitlements there. And oftentimes, employers put that pressure on employees to resign because they're really hoping and trying to avoid paying severance. People think, well, if I resign, there's going to be some sort of a record if I'm let go, which doesn't exist if I resign, and it's going to be held against me. No, nonsense. That's not true at all. There's no record. There's no database of recording why you're no longer working for a company. That's simply not true. Now, the only time maybe it would make sense to resign rather than be let go is if you know you've done something awful. You know you stole from the company or you committed fraud. At that point, you may as well resign because you're not going to get severance anyway. In most other cases, John, it's not better to resign. It's better to be let go, get your full severance, and move on.
Well, you did mention there, Lior, in that first answer, that sometimes pressure from the employer. So having said that, does the employer have any leeway as far as, maybe telling you or asking you to resign from your job? How about that?
Absolutely not. By definition, John, a resignation is something that an employee does voluntarily. They do it unilaterally and voluntarily on their own. You cannot be told to resign. You cannot be threatened into resigning, pushed into resign, convinced into resigning. You have to do this on your own. If your employer is putting pressure on you, they're doing that hoping that you're going to give them a great gift of avoiding having to pay you severance. Don't give them that gift. If your employer is telling you have to resign, the answer should be thanks, but no thanks. I'm working here. If you want me gone, you can let me go. You have to comply with the law in that situation, but I'm not resigning. So no, don't fall for that pressure tactic and give your employer a massive gift of up to 2 years of severance that you are owed. Don't ever do that.
Final question, Lior. Is there some sort of mechanism or way that an employee can prove that they were forced to resign by their employer?
So some people didn't necessarily know what I just said, and they were pushed and pressured into resigning, and they resigned because of that. Well, if you've done that, ideally you want to put in that resignation letter, hey, I've resigned, not because I want to, but because you've told me to, because you told me I have no choice. You may want to have some sort of a witness to corroborate that, maybe a recording or an email exchange, something in writing where your employer is putting that pressure on you to resign. You need to be able to show that it wasn't really something that you did voluntarily. And why do you want to do that? Well, if you can actually show that the reason you resigned is not because you wanted to, but because you were pushed, threatened, convinced to do it, the law may still consider that to be a termination, not a resignation, which means you're going to still be owed your full severance. Bottom line is this: if you've resigned because you felt you had to, let's talk about that right away, and let's talk how you can still get severance in that situation.
Explained well, Lior, as always. Before we get into a break, we got our second phone call for the show. Let's listen in and dissect that one, shall we?
Well, I've been laid off. I'm only a part-timer, a couple of days a week, but I've been doing that for about 8 years. I haven't heard one thing from the employer of getting back to work. I know that the job I was doing was canceled. That's it. I'm laid off, and I don't know if they'll resume what I was doing.
What do you think about that, Lior?
Well, it's a classic situation of the company hoping that this person will just kind of go away, fade into the background there, and they won't hear from him again. Well, not so fast. First of all, the layoff itself, being put on a layoff, that was not legal. That entitles the person to severance right off the bat. And if he's not called back to work, of course he's owed severance. So either way, this person is entitled to severance. That temporary layoff for most people, John, not legal. The fact that he is part-time does not change that. Whether you're full-time, 5 days a week, or part-time, 1 day a week, if you are let go, you are owed severance. That could be as much as 24 months' pay. So he doesn't have to wait. He doesn't have to wonder. Let's talk about that, and I'll be able to easily get him that full severance.
All right, Lior, good stuff. We got to get into a quick break here. We'll do the other half of what the firm does every week, and that is disability law. They go hand in hand quite often, so we'll get to that after a short break. As we continue, more Ask a Lawyer right here on CP24. Stay with us.
Lost your job? Disability denied? Ask a Lawyer is here for you. Each week, experts from EmploymentLawyer.ca answer your questions. Visit cp24.com/askalawyer and watch Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on CP24.
All right, welcome back to Ask a Lawyer, CP24. We continue. The other half of what Lior's firm does is disability law. For the contact information, a little bit different, but pretty much the same. The phone number right there, 1-855-821-5900. For the purpose of this segment, you can reach out at askdisabilityrights.ca. We'll get into it here, Lior. A couple questions, got some audio questions, and I will ask you one as well. But just briefly, why the disability side of the firm? How does that work?
One of the most difficult and certainly frustrating situations that someone can find themselves in is where they cannot work for health reasons, for medical reasons. They want to, they have every interest to continue working, but their health does not allow that, whether it's a mental health issue or a physical ailment, and these things happen. Well, unfortunately, in those situations, you still have to pay your bills, you still have to pay your mortgage, you still have to make sure that you're okay financially. That's why there's various avenues that are available to make sure you have that compensation. Short-term disability payments, long-term disability payments, CPP disability payments, all those are available. Unfortunately, it can be quite complicated to navigate those, and insurance companies often don't do what they're supposed to do, which is to approve you for benefits. They deny you benefits, they put obstacles in the way, and they make that difficult situation that you're already in even worse. That's why we've created a whole team in the office dedicated to helping those individuals that deserve to get these disability payments. They can't work legitimately, but someone is not approving them. They're being cut off, or those benefits are not coming in. So if you find yourself in a situation where you can't work for medical reasons, if you're not getting those disability benefits that are supposed to help you in that time, we need to talk right away. Our team will make sure that the right thing happens here.
Let's get into our first call in that regard. Lior, listen up, and we'll take it apart.
I'm worried about paying my bills when my long-term disability benefits end. The insurance company says I can work another job earning minimum wage, so they're cutting off my LTD in 3 months. My doctor disagrees, but they don't seem to care. I was already struggling to get by on the LTD payments. What can I do? And are there any other benefits I can access?
This is the type of call, John, that we get very often in the office. You're on disability, you're making ends meet, with those payments. The insurance company says, well, enough is enough. You must be able to go back to work in some capacity, do some job, so we're going to cut you off. Now, oftentimes that happens after about 2 years of being on disability benefits, but it can happen in other times as well. Well, guess what? If you know you can't work and your doctor knows and says that you cannot work, that insurance company doesn't get to make the decision for you or for your doctor. They're going to try, and a lot of people are going to assume that that's okay. Not good. Your doctor is, of course, very important in this equation. If your insurance company is not following that, if they say, yeah, just go back, do something, earn some money, we don't want to pay you anymore, once they hear from us, that changes. Once they know we've called them on it, all of a sudden, those benefits get resumed or they don't get cut off. So please do the right thing, do the smart thing. If for any reason your insurance company is telling you they're going to cut you off your disability benefits, let's talk. Let us do what we do to make sure that those benefits remain in place.
Lior, let's roll on. I got an email question in that regard for you. It goes like this. When you're on long-term disability, does your insurer look at only the base pay, or do commissions and bonuses count too?
Now, the general rule, John, is that your disability benefits should include all components of your compensation, not just your base salary. So bonuses, commissions, etc. Now, that can be changed based on the terms of the insurance policy. Some policies exclude those other benefits and only allow for payments based on base salary. So we have to review those policies as well. It's quite common and possible for an insurance company to try to underpay you, to try to calculate your benefits improperly so that they pay less. That's yet another reason, John, why people should be contacting us as soon as possible if they're qualifying for disability benefits, because it's not just getting those benefits, it's getting the right amount that matters. We can review that and make sure that the insurance company is not pocketing any money that they're legally required to pay you.
So feel free to reach out. By the way, consultations are free as well. Lior, we're going to bounce back over to the employment side of things, wrap it up this week with a phone call after a short break, which we'll take now. Stay with us. More Ask a Lawyer is on the way right here on CP24.
Lost your job? Disability denied? Ask a Lawyer is here for you. Each week, experts from EmploymentLawyer.ca answer your questions. Visit cp24.com/askalawyer and watch Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on CP24.
And we're back with Ask a Lawyer, CP24. A few minutes to go here. We'd like to wrap up the show with another listener phone call, Lior, so we'll get into that. So listen up.
This is for my friend. She has been in company for 21 or 22 years. She is now being offered a position in the same company, which is not unionized. If for any reason she is let go, will her previous employment with the same company count for her severance? She's 57 or 58.
It's a great question.
Excellent question, and a very important question. And the answer here is quite simple. Your full years of service count, even if you've taken off a different position with the company. It's almost impossible for a company to somehow reset or get rid of your previous service. So if you took on a different position, in some cases, even if you were away from the company or you moved to a different location, those full years of service count for the purpose of calculating severance. And the reason that's important is the more years of service you have, the more severance you're going to be owed. So the last thing we need to do right now, of course, is to calculate how much severance she's going to be owed in a hypothetical situation where she's going to be let go. We're going to go once more to the severance calculator. You'll find that at pocketemploymentlawyer.ca. Again, pocketemploymentlawyer.ca. Let's do that right now and let's see what we get. So she's a supervisor at the age of 57 or so that's been there for 22 years. That's a significant amount of time. If she gets severance, if she's let go, because all her years of service count, she's going to be owed somewhere between 20 to 24 months of severance. That's why it's important to use this calculator. I mentioned before, but it bears repeating. It's free, it's anonymous, it's easy to use. You don't have to put in a credit card number, a phone number, an email address. It's just there for you, pocketemploymentlawyer.ca.
And always keep track of that employment agreement, right? Especially when going to a new job or otherwise, right?
Yeah, if your employer wants you to sign a new agreement, even if you've just agreed to take on a new role, that agreement could potentially limit your future severance. Be very careful. Anytime you're already working for a company and they want you to sign a new agreement, that can be bad news. That could significantly impact your entitlements. Please don't sign anything without me seeing it first.
All right, Lior, thank you so much. That will do it for this week. And for you, thank you for watching. A couple different ways to reach out to Lior anytime. Do not hesitate to do so. The phone call, 1-855-821-5900. Match that up. Join it up with the email, which is ask@employmentlawyer.ca, pocketemploymentlawyer.ca. That's where you're going to find the severance calculator. Anything else, cp24.com/askalawyer. And we'll see you again next week. Thank you so much for tuning in this week.